This is Christina from Our Wood Home. Today I'm going to be taking you along as I prepare for a winter storm that we're expecting to have this weekend. Right now it's January 10th, so I don't know when this video will come out, but either way you get to come along with me as I prepare and plan for possible power outages this weekend. So first I'm going to be bringing up all of my jars and containers behind me there from the basement that we use for water storage, and I'll be cleaning those out and filling them and setting them aside. So let's get started. So when I bring up the bottles from the basement, I like to just wash them in hot soapy water for a bit. I'll fill the sink with soap and water and let them soak for about 20 to 30 minutes just to make sure that there's no dust or anything like that inside the bottles, since we will be potentially drinking this water in the event of a power outage. I know it could possibly be easier just to go to the store and buy bottles of water instead of going through this process of cleaning and then saving the water, but this is what we prefer to do. It's just easier for us, it's less expensive, and right now we are a one-car household, so my schedule for errands and such depends on David's schedule. So since I can't just run out to the store to get bottled water, this works a lot better. And we do have a lot of bottles, so I will wash them in batches because they don't all fit in the sink. I feel like at this point I should give a small disclaimer and explanation about the winter storm we're expecting. So the photo at the beginning of this video might imply that we're getting a big snowfall, and that's not the case actually. That photo is from earlier in December, I think. So the storm we're expecting this weekend is a lot of rain and then changing to freezing rain. This is a problem because it could, the ice could build up on power lines and knock those out, or just affect general electricity. So we don't want to be stuck without running water, which is why I'm doing this preparation. Obviously, if there's a power outage, we won't have running water, but we'll still have water to drink and cook with, that sort of thing. We usually get some type of winter storm each year where we have to do this preparation. We learned quickly that it's better to keep an eye on the forecast and anticipate possible power outages, because in the past we have actually collected snow, boiled that down on our wood stove to make sure it's safe for drinking, and then stored that in drinking vessels. But that is not ideal. It's very time consuming, and it really depends on how much snow we have. So this works a lot better because I can plan the day or a couple days in advance of the storm. I apologize if my voice sounds a little scratchy. My throat's pretty dry and a little bit sore right now, but hopefully it doesn't distract too much from what I'm saying. So by now in the video I've already washed out one batch of bottles, and I'm filling the sink for the second batch. It's not icy out yet, but there's a little bit of ice, but I'm anticipating a lot more that lingers over the weekend, so I will be putting my little grippy shoes on the bottom of my boots. Everyone's outside, which is surprising. The chickens don't usually like slushy or wet ground. So part of my prep for the cold weather, or the winter weather advisory, is making sure I fill this jug tonight with fresh water for the chickens. everyone's fine. I am a little concerned with their water dish if it gets really cold over the weekend, because it's a heated dish, so if there's no power, then their water might freeze. But I don't think it's supposed to get too cold, so hopefully their water stays liquid. An interesting fact about chickens is that one of the ways they regulate their body temperature is through drinking water. So when it's really cold, they can keep at a comfortable body temperature by constantly drinking fresh water. So if there's not enough water for them to drink, they can't regulate their temperature, and therefore they will get chilly. Oh my goodness, babies. One of the things we have in here, I think I've shown it before, is that flat wall heater. It just puts out a little bit of heat so that the coop doesn't get to minus 20 degrees Celsius at night. And above that you can see we've got, that's not going to focus, there's a vent up there. There's one, oh, I don't think you can see it there, but there's a vent just above that window, and it just allows some fresh air in. That's another important part of keeping chickens, is to make sure that they constantly have a fresh airflow in their coop. Otherwise it can just create an unhealthy environment, and you don't want that. But the possible issue, I guess, is that those little vents will allow too much cold air in, and if there's too much cold air coming in, too many gusts of wind, it will disrupt their feathers. So one of the ways chickens keep warm in cold weather is by puffing up their feathers and creating little air pockets underneath. So if there's a big gust of wind, it can ruffle their feathers, so to speak, and disrupt their little air pockets, and they will not be able to stay as warm. So, all that to say, we have a couple vents to create a nice cross breeze, but in the winter we cover them with an old towel, just so that it's still porous enough for fresh air to get through, but it's not going to be blowing in big gusts of wind. They really don't like it when I'm in here, so I'm gonna leave. But I will add, thankfully, everyone's feathers have grown back in, for the most part. In my vlog that I shared a few weeks ago, I had mentioned that they were molting, so they were pretty patchy, but everyone's feathers have grown in nicely, although Reba's feathers are a little patchy. That's Reba. Her chest looks a little bit bare. Yes, Reba. But Dolly's feathers have grown in nicely. June's are nice. Little Emmy Lou's chest is a little sparse, but it's alright. Alright, let's head back inside. Once we're back in, I'm going to start filling the water jugs. I'm just going to try to dump out any rinse water that might be in them, and I'll just fill those with some nice fresh well water. We do have some big 1 and 2 gallon plastic jugs that we keep full of ice in David's hunting freezer. They just stay there because there isn't room in the main freezer, but we use them in situations like this to put in our refrigerator, so that if we lose power for an extended period of time, the food inside can stay colder longer because of the ice blocks. I don't think I'll be bringing those up for this weekend, but we do have them just in case the power outage lasts longer than expected. Although right now there's not really much in our fridge, so I'm not too concerned with spoilage anyways. It's funny telling people about this whole process we have to go through, because they seem just so surprised or amused by it, I guess, because it's not something that our friends and family experience. They don't live in the same area that we do, or they would rather just buy water, which I'm not saying is a bad thing. It's just not something we choose to do. But living where we live, we just have come to expect that there are certain preparations we need to take in the winter or in inclement weather that other people maybe choose not to do. But we don't mind doing all of this prep. It's kind of fun. It's more tolerable when we anticipate needing to do this instead of being stuck having to do it, but I don't mind. Usually this work falls to me because I'm home during the day and David's at work, but it's something that just comes with being a full-time homemaker, I guess, and it's a task that I don't mind doing. All right, this is what we have for drinking water in preparation for this possible winter storm. I think we have a few big, like gallon or 2 gallon jugs in the basement that I still need to find. So I'll look for those and fill those as well, but this should be sufficient. I also have this big water jug. I don't know how big it is, but we fill this with water and put it in the bathroom so that the toilet can flush and so that we can wash our hands and rinse out our mouths when we brush our teeth. We also have this big blue pot that I will fill and just keep on the stove. We probably won't use that water for anything. It's just to put moisture in the air when we're using the wood stove because the air gets quite dry. But I think that's probably all the prep I need to do in terms of filling water jugs. Later today I'll go fill the watering cans for the pets drinking water, including the chickens, just to make sure that we've got a good supply for them. We do have a rain barrel outside, so I guess if we ran out of water we could just collect it from there, boil it on the wood stove, and have safe drinking water for everybody. But we've been doing this method for a few years and we've never run out of water before we were able to access our well water again, so I don't anticipate that happening. So this blue tote is 20 liters. I don't know how many gallons that is because we're in Canada and we use liters, but this is too heavy for me to lift when it's full of water, so I leave it here and my husband will fill it up when he gets home. And it's got a nice little spout, so we tighten that, and we use that for flushing the toilet if we need to, as well as washing our hands and rinsing our mouths after we brush our teeth. So we've used this every time that we've had a potential power outage where we don't have access to our well water because it's through an electric pump system. And we've used it when we had frozen well lines a couple years ago, as well as when we had our pipes burst a few years ago now, and we had to shut off all the water to the house while my husband and his father did all the repairs on that. So it's very useful, we like it. It just stays in the basement with all of the other emergency water jugs, and I bring it up, clean it out, and it gets filled up when we need it. Another thing I do to prepare for winter storms is try to get all of the laundry done if possible, because it could be a few hours or days that we're without electricity, and I would rather not have a huge pile of laundry to do once we get the electricity back on. So thankfully I don't have a lot of laundry to do today, so it should be able to all be finished before we're in for any bad weather this weekend. One of the other important tasks in preparation for a winter storm is emptying our driveway of any water. So as you can see, there's already a bunch of water just from the snow that's been melting and running off into our driveway. But underneath of that is ice. When we had some milder weather around Christmas, actually, it caused all the snow to melt, and then the temperatures got a little bit cooler, so all of that melting snow had ended up freezing in our driveway. Thankfully, we don't get water coming into the house because we are raised up a bit, but we do sometimes have water getting dangerously close to the garage. So this is a frustrating task, to say the least, but it's very necessary because the ground is still frozen since we are in winter. So any of the runoff or the rainwater, it can't permeate the ground. We do have a gravel driveway, so water is able to pass through the gravel into the soil underneath, but that's not possible when it's frozen. So this pump that we have is just a submersible pump. It's electric. It plugs into the wall, and there's just a garden hose on the end there, and that discharges the water away from the house. It's quite a small pump. This is the second one we've had to use. We've already burned through one, just based on how much we use it. But as I was saying, this is a small pump, but it works hard and it does an okay job. There's a lot of water in the driveway, as you can see. So this pump will be working very hard, hopefully getting all that water out before the big rains come. We do have access to a rather large commercial-sized pump that's gas-powered, so hopefully we're able to get that and set that up before too much water fills the driveway. A lot of people will tell me, why don't you just fix the drainage problem, or they come up with various solutions to prevent this from happening, and those are all valid points that they make. It's just not possible for us right now. It's a very large project to fix this problem, both in labor and expenses. So it is something we're hoping to deal with in the future. It's just not possible right now. So this is how we deal with that issue. As you can see, we did get the big industrial pump. It's having to work really hard. There's a ton of water in the driveway, and the rains have obviously begun. So as I said, this is a gas-powered pump, and it has a huge, really long, really wide hose, almost like a fire hose attached, so it can pump out a large volume of water. Okay, so it's Sunday morning after this big winter storm. We decided to stay home from church today because the forecast is still calling for icy conditions on the road, and we don't want to risk driving in that. Plus, we also need to keep an eye on things at home just to make sure we don't get any water coming in, and if there is any ice accumulation, we want to make sure that everything's safe here. So I'm just about to go and check on the chickens, see how they're doing, make sure that everything's okay in their end. We did lose power last night, so I'm hoping that their heater is still working properly and that their heated ice bucket or water bucket doesn't have ice in it. So let's go. I do have my grippy shoes on, my winter boots. I'm still wearing pajamas because it's early in the morning. I don't know if you can even hear any of this or if it's too windy. Oh dear. Okay, so the door is covered in ice. I'm hoping I can still get in.